What's up guys, Jake Virgin Tech here, back with another video, and today we're going to be taking apart my Ncase M1 build. We are going to start the build for converting this PC into a NAS server. If you guys watched my 2020 rewind and future plans for 2021, I did mention in that video that I want to be taking this build and converting it from kind of a gaming editing system into a NAS server. So I'm going to use this server for storing all my YouTube videos. It'll be a network attached storage system, and we'll also have some sort of RAID configuration for enhanced reliability. So as far as what we're going to be doing to the build today, we're going to be kind of dismantling it. Not completely, but I'm pretty much just going to take out the graphics card, some of the parts of the case, so we have a little bit more access to try and fit our hot swappable hard drive bay. And we are going to replace these bottom fans with some of the Noctua redux fans. So I haven't used these yet, but they look pretty good and they're extremely reasonable. So I'm kind of interested to try these out and see how they do. They're 120mm fans, and these run at 1700 RPMs, and they are PWM. So we're going to take this build apart, kind of clean it up a little bit, and for this build, we are going to be leaving the graphics card out of the system. We're just going to be running the integrated graphics on the Intel i5 that's in this system. Because for a server build like this, it doesn't need any sort of graphics card. Now we are going to be running a desktop GUI. I believe we're going to be installing the GNOME interface on Ubuntu Server 20.04. So we will need some sort of graphics, but the integrated graphics on the CPU will take care of that just fine. And a lot of server builds like these, a lot of people don't install any sort of desktop interface. I'm more visual, so personally I kind of like having that option, and I usually install a software called Cockpit, and you can remotely manage the server, and you can actually log into your system via IP address in the web browser, and it will give you a nice interface where you can really manage the server quite well. But like I said, that's all a little bit down the road. For now, we got to handle the hardware side of this build, and that's going to be taking this apart, removing the graphics card, installing our new fans, and lastly, I want to try and mount. This is a hot swappable hard drive bay, so you'll find a lot of solutions like these inside servers. So this is a 3.5-inch hard drive bay, and we have 3 different bays, so we can fit a lot of storage in here, quite a bit, and they do make these in larger solutions as well. And this is made by Kinguine, but I used one of these, except the 4-bay model, in a server build I did recently at work. So, and it turned out really nice, and we used one of the Rosewell server cases, so it mounted in there perfect. Mounting this in this case is going to be a bit of a challenge. My idea is to mount it vertically, just inside the front portion of the case. From the measurements that I took before I ordered this, it looked like everything's going to fit, but of course we got it in and I'm looking at it, it's going to be close, so it's going to be a challenge, and we might have to 3D print some custom brackets to actually get it secured, stuff like that. But I'm looking forward to it, and I really hope it works out, because my main thing is I just really love this Ncase M1 build, and I want to keep it around and utilize it as best as I possibly can, so turning it into a server would be really cool. Alrighty guys, so that's going to close out this build log. I did end up getting this hot swappable hard drive bay mounted inside the Ncase M1. It wasn't easy. We had to take quite a few things apart, but we were planning on doing that anyways. As you guys saw, I took the graphics card out first, took out our fans, and then I started to take the case apart a bit more. I really haven't gone too far past this bracket for fans or radiators, but that can come off, and I've taken that off before. But I ended up taking a part of the frame off to get this mounted in, and it mounts in pretty nice. I mean, it was kind of self-supported for a little bit, but what I ended up doing was drilling a couple holes in the top of the hard drive bay. And the reasoning for that is, unfortunately, the top bay here that is closest to us, which I'll get some closer shots for you guys to see, unfortunately, no matter how I mounted it in here, it wasn't going to be able to open. So that left us with just these two being available for hard drives. But that wasn't a total loss, because when I started doing this build, I didn't realize the motherboard that I have, which is a ASRock Phantom Gaming motherboard, it only has 2 SATA data ports on the motherboard. So you can only run 2 SATA data cables to other hard drives. And in this case, that wouldn't have given us our third one anyway. So what I ended up doing to mount that, like I said, I drilled a couple holes to the top. Kind of felt like plastic at first, and like it would be really easy to drill through. It's some kind of brushed metal, but it still was pretty easy to drill through, and there was no components on the back side of it, obviously. So I did that, and it mounted up really nice, and it's pretty sturdy. So that's pretty much it as far as the hardware portion of this build is going to go. I'll probably just end up tidying up the cables a little bit more, running a few more zip ties and stuff like that, just making sure it's nice and clean. Then the rest of this is going to be operating system and software related. And I'm also looking forward to, like I mentioned earlier, these redux fans from Noctua. I ended up mounting those in, and they look really nice. They got a nice gray and kind of olive color, which looks pretty cool compared to some of the other colors that Noctua has out. But I'm a big fan of Noctua fans. I am running them in the water-cooled system now, and it keeps it super cool. So I'm really curious to see how these fans perform, because they were really cheap. They were like, for name brand like Noctua, they're only like $13 or somewhere around $10 a piece. And they're 1700 RPM, PWM, so I think they'll probably end up working out pretty well, especially for a build like this where I don't have a GPU blocking the motherboard and stuff like that, and having to worry about cooling a GPU a little bit more. So I think this will be really adequate cooling for this build. Although I take that back about the hardware portion of this build being done, because I don't have all my drives picked out yet. I'm going to need a couple drives for our RAID configuration, which now is going to be a RAID 1 obviously, because we only have support for 2 hard drives opposed to M.2s, which we'll also be using. So we're going to have 2 hard drives. Not sure on which size. I'll just have to see what I could get for the price at the time. So we're going to go with 2 mechanical hard drives into our hot swappable hard drive bay. And then for our operating system, I'm going to try to find the smallest M.2, maybe NVMe hard drive that I can find. Because for an operating system like Ubuntu 20.04, Ubuntu Server, we really don't need much space. So honestly, even something around 100 gigs would be fine, but I think the smallest I've been seeing some of the M.2 and NVMe hard drives are around 250, but we'll just have to see what we can find. But that's what we'll be going with for our boot drive. So that's going to wrap up this build log, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know this is a really kind of a strange build. I don't think I've seen anybody try and custom build a NAS server inside of Ncase M1. But I'm sure there's people that have done some different custom builds inside the Ncase M1. I know there's a ton of people water cooling in this thing. We don't get the full functionality I was looking for, you know, not being able to use that first hard drive bay. But like I said, it worked out okay because we didn't have the third SATA port on our motherboard anyway. So the next video for this build log is probably going to be just installing the hard drives and the operating system. So stick around if you want to see that. I'm really going to try to go through in detail how to build out this server from a operating system and software standpoint. I know there's a lot of people on YouTube that have already done a lot about custom home servers and stuff, but I really want to break it down and simplify it to where anybody, even somebody that's not super computer savvy, can build their own server. So we're going to dive into that pretty deep, and I hope a lot of you guys that are interested in something like that can learn from it. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this little build vlog. And like I said, we're going to have the other videos coming up pretty soon, installing the hard drives, operating system, and these software after. So I'm going to take you through the whole server build and all the way to where it's up and running and we're dropping our video files onto it. So thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, give us a thumbs up. And if you want to see more tech related videos like this one, be sure to subscribe. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.